This has been one interesting week. I mean, between that plantation burning in Louisiana, that big ass tree falling and crushing that conservative post or whatever that thing was down in North Carolina, it being Malcolm X's 100th birthday, and a host of other things have come out of this week. And by the way, I'm recording this video on May 21st, 2025, which means it's Wednesday, which means something else can happen between now and the time that this video is uploaded. But something else interesting just got, I would just say, announced this week as well. So, do y'all remember Scott Adams? He is the cartoonist for that strip called Dilbert. Do y'all remember him? Well, in case y'all don't remember him, let me give you a little rundown, a little bit of a flashback using some quotes that he said maybe about 2 years ago. This man said, "I don't want to have anything to do with them," Adams added, "and I would say based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the F away because there is no fixing this." He also goes on to say, in so many words, that black people or black Americans was a hate group, and that again, that white people should get away from them. And that ended up leading to his comic strip getting pulled and pretty much stripped out of the strip. And then he just kind of faded into obscurity. But that also opened up the floodgates for a lot of PC people to quote unquote agree with him and start trying to think that they could puff their chest out at black people and say whatever it is that they want. Well, fast forward to May 21st, 2025, when it got announced that Scott Adams, staunchly anti-black Scott Adams, was diagnosed with the same form of cancer that Joe Biden got diagnosed with, and that was prostate cancer. As a matter of fact, according to Scott Adams, his prostate cancer is so accelerated, his doctors told him his life expectancy is to the summer, as in this summer, which means they don't expect him to make it to next summer. As a matter of fact, they don't even expect him to make it to the fall. So let me go ahead and read this article coming from the New York Times. Scott Adams, the cartoonist who created the comic strip Dilbert, said on his podcast on Monday that he had the same kind of aggressive prostate cancer as former President Joe Biden, and that it had spread to his bones. He said he only had months to live. "My life expectancy is maybe this summer," he said. Mr. Adams, age 67, is a supporter of President Trump and has been critical of Mr. Biden. But on Monday, he expressed his sympathy for the former president. Yeah, because now y'all basically are battling the same thing. Because Joe Biden's prostate cancer, his is also aggressive as well. He said, "I'd like to extend my respect and compassion and sympathy for the ex-president and his family, because they're going to be going through an especially tough time," Mr. Adams said. "It's a terrible disease and it's going to get very painful for the president." It was not clear when Mr. Adams was diagnosed, but he said that he decided to share the news after learning that Mr. Biden had the same disease, in part because he hoped that Mr. Biden's announcement would draw attention away from his own. Well, if his is aggressive like that, then 9 times out of 10, he probably had it for a while. And the fact that he stated it like the way that he did means that he probably knew he had it for a while. He just was keeping it close to the chest and decided to officially announce it once he found out that Joe Biden had it and said, "You know what, let me go ahead and just say it because Joe Biden said so. That's a little bit of weight off of me." He had kept quiet about it to prolong a sense of normalcy, he said. "Once you go public, you're just the dying cancer guy." Mr. Adams said he was also wary of sharing his diagnosis because he wanted to avoid the kind of negative online attention that Mr. Biden had received since his office announced the news on Sunday. "One of the things I've been watching is how terrible the public is," he said, adding that people have been cruel. Well, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Look at what I just pulled up for you as far as quotes go, as it pertains to what he said about black people and that they need to get away from us because we're a quote unquote hate group. That's what he said 2 years ago. That's what he said. He goes on to say there's no sympathy for Joe Biden for a lot of people, Mr. Adams said, and it's hard to watch. So he was afraid that the public was going to fry him because of that. Well, guess what? I think a lot of black people who remember what you did or need a reminder of what you did are going to fry you regardless. So it is what it is. That means he has a lot. That means he has a lot. He has a lot going on consciously with him, and he knows that he has said some stuff and probably did some wrong to other people, that he's afraid that people are going to make fun of his diagnosis. Let me just say this right now. I'm not here to make fun of this man's diagnosis, because cancer is a very dangerous thing, and it affects a lot of people, even outside of the people that have it. It affects families and all of that. We all know someone personally or somebodies who have had or passed from different forms of cancer. So I'm not on here to make fun of the fact that he has it. I'm just saying that karma is karmaing right now. It says Mr. Adams created Dilbert, which mocks office culture, in 1989, and it was syndicated around the world. In 2023, hundreds of newspapers dropped the cartoon after Mr. Adams said on his podcast that black people were, quote, a hate group, and that white people should, quote, just get the hell away from them. On his podcast at the time, he defended his remarks, saying that, quote, you should absolutely be racist whenever it is to your advantage. He later said his comments were intended as hyperbole. Yeah, right. He meant exactly what he said. On Monday, Mr. Trump said he was surprised that Mr. Biden's diagnosis wasn't made public earlier, seeming to suggest without evidence that the former president's cancer had been covered up. But Mr. Adams said on his podcast that it was possible for Mr. Biden to not have been showing symptoms when he received a clean bill of health from his doctor last year. Part of Mr. Adams' sympathy for Mr. Biden seemed to come from his own lived experience with the disease, which he called intolerable. Mr. Adams said he'd been using a walker for months and was in a constant state of pain. Apart from recording his podcast, he said he spends most of his days sleeping. As a California resident, he indicated that he would be using aid in dying drugs, which are available to the terminally ill in the state. He goes on to say, I don't have good days, he said. Every day is a nightmare, and evening is even worse. Let me just say this, that while I'm not here to go at him for the fact that he has cancer, because like I said, cancer is a very stressful thing for everybody involved, not just on the person who has it, but the people around them, especially family. But at the end of the day, this is his karma. Look at what he said a couple years ago, and he didn't backtrack from it either. He flat out said what he said about black people out of nowhere, and people fame him for it. He ended up getting dropped because of it. I think he even probably tried to, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to blame black people for why he got dropped. I'm like, you were the ones that said what you said. We didn't force you to say that. I don't even think it was other white people that forced him to say it. He said what was on his heart that day. And now fast forward to now and look at him now. You can look at on the screen. This is a more recent image of him right here. He doesn't look live. Like, you can tell he's literally just counting down the days. So, hey, it is what it is.